In yet another podcast with the Tech Factor by Purple Quarter. Really excited to call in Smita Ojha. Thank you so much for being here, Smita. Thanks for coming to our office.
My pleasure.
Awesome. For our viewers who don't know Smita, I wanted to just talk about you did do your computer science in both BTech and MS from IIT Mumbai, and then you went on to Georgia Institute of Technology, if I'm correct. For a very small time, did a research and was with IBM, moved on to Microsoft for 12 years. And then I think you moved on to Facebook for a 2-year period, Google for 5.5 years, and currently with Mindtickle. Now, what tickles my mind is the journey has been so different, right? When I look at all of these companies that you've been part of. Now, let's even begin right from where you started, your initial juncture, your education. Can we start with that piece or Mindtickle on and this words? Up to you, Smita. I'd like to hear your journey.
Yes. So if I start my journey from the education, I got into IIT into 1996. So I was there from 1996 to 2000 in computer science in IIT Bombay. And I think that laid a very strong foundation of, I would say, technology as well as growing as an engineer, as a leader, as a person, as a friend. So those were very remarkable 4 years that I had. And after that, the education continued in master's. My specialization in bachelor's as well as in master's was in databases and in data warehousing, which evolved into collaborative filtering. That's where I started my PhD as well. Okay. But then I got tempted with Microsoft offer and Washington State, and then I jumped to the industry side and started my career journey at Microsoft in Washington, Seattle.
All right. So, would you want to talk about how these companies were different from one another? Microsoft, Facebook, Google, three very large firms, reputed ones. Could you tell us how did you think of culture, technology at these firms?
Yes. So first, let me talk about the similarity between all these.
Sure.
Companies. In all these, my 4 companies that I've been at, I would say I had the pleasure of working with some of the smartest and the brightest people, very good engineers, very good leaders, very good teammates and peers. And I think that has given me a lot of satisfaction of my 2 decades of industry experience. So that was the common point. I'll say I also see this journey as connected. Mm-hmm. Right. I started my career in enterprise, which was office applications. Right. Okay. It was a productivity suite. We were in my initial days. I worked on shipping a CD, and that required that perfect rigor and heavy triaging, because once the code is shipped, you can't take it back. It is gone in the CDs. I think that laid a very strong foundation. I worked on anything and everything. I started my career in SharePoint Search to be specific, where I worked on relevance algorithms, even the query optimizations, front end, covered everything there. And then moved from the CD world to the cloud world. And that was an interesting journey, because earlier there was no DevOps or SRE. So I used to do my own deployments, write my own monitoring tools.
Wow.
And then came the DevOps and SRE world as well as the industry grew. So but I've always, in Microsoft, I've always been in Office applications. Okay. So I worked at SharePoint, in Office Live, in Exchange. It was all about productivity suite for the IT engineers, right? So that's, and it was an enterprise software. So saw that whole journey of how Office 365 came along, how Microsoft turned around from a shipping CD business to a multi-tenant cloud infrastructure and played a role there. So that was a very satisfying journey. And of course, the outside world of social media was attractive. So I joined their core infrastructure team. And that is where I learned how to build the large scale distributed systems.
Okay.
And the caching software which my team had, we served like one system served 4 billion queries per second, another system served 3 billion queries per second. I think that's where a lot of my engineering core principles got tested as well as the leadership. But in engineering core principles, we had to go and look at what can we write in C++, what can be written in threads, what can be written in fibers, what can I write in assembly language to squeeze out that microsecond.
Wow.
So that was a very good learning phase of it.
Sure.
And 2 years of that, I think, and seeing that company grow and the systems grow, the systems mature, that was a very satisfying experience by itself. And after that, I did miss out my enterprise roots because being 10 years in enterprise, I felt like I'm not using that skill of being enterprise savvy. And then I moved to Google Workspace. And I stayed in Google Workspace for 5 years. And there my idea was to build that enterprise platform.
Sure.
And Google was also moving towards that enterprise world with Google Cloud coming up, Google Workspace targeting more and more enterprise customers. So that aligned very well with me. So I think many of my colleagues, everybody knows, I did not join Google for Google.
Okay.
I joined Google for Google Enterprise Platform.
Okay.
Because I felt an attachment with that space, with the technical challenges that there were. And I knew that Google has a lot of potential to grow in that area. So that was the reason of joining Google. I talked to only one team at Google, and that's about it. My interview process was 5 days, right from start, introduction to my offer accept.
Wow, that's the shortest I've heard of Google.
That is the shortest even I have heard of.
Sure.
So yeah, I think, but it was, and there at Google, I led 3 divisions in Google Workspace Enterprise Platform. The first one being their growth platform. This platform was responsible for growing their multi-billion-dollar business and what engineering systems can do to continue that growth. The second thing which I looked at was identity platform, and that was a large-scale distributed system which was built from scratch here in Bangalore. So that was a very good experience by itself of building one of the highly available services in the world. So that was a very satisfying one. And the third one was entire workspace analytics.
Sure.
That was also led by me here in Bangalore. So those were the 3 areas that I contributed to in Google Workspace.
Right.
And earlier this year, I moved to Mindtickle, a mid-size startup in sales enablement area. And I am here as SVP of Engineering. Here, my role is it covers a lot of breadth. On one side, I look at the engineering teams with front-end, back-end, data analytics, APIs, mobile, QA, DevOps, SRE, TPMs. And on the other side, I partner with the CEO, the go-to-market teams, the CTO, the Chief Product Officer, to make sure we have the right strategy and we are executing and doing well in our business.
Sure. I'm going to take a cue from what you just told us. First is talking about the kind of scale that you saw at Facebook, right? Second, you worked on large distributed systems at the enterprise companies and you saw a lot of complicated queries that came your way. Yeah. So how are you putting these two to good use at Mindtickle?
So Mindtickle right now, it is at a phase where we need to scale. We need to scale our systems.
Sure.
And we are investing also in building a platform that is scalable, that can do data analytics, that can integrate with the third party systems. And that's where all the knowledge comes together, I feel.
Sure.
Because if you see in my journey, there are three things which are common. One is enterprise solutions.
Right.
It has its own technical challenges. Second is data analytics. And third is building the large scale systems. And I feel like where the company needs to scale to its next level, all of these three things come together in Mindtickle.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So let's deep dive and talk a little bit about Mindtickle, the sales enablement platform.
Yes.
And if you can tell our audience what does this platform do, and also from a tech angle, how is it contributing to today's world?
Got it. So, every enterprise companies, they have their sales divisions.
Right.
And if I look at the sales enablement platform, it covers 4 different verticals. The first vertical is the learning solutions. Sales division is the area where salespeople are constantly learning. They need to revise their skills. They need to learn what to sell, what to pitch, how to pitch, because their content is continuously changing. They need to continuously learn and get certifications. The second is on the content side. Again, what will the learners learn? You will have to create the content and manage that content. In terms of creating the content, there are various ways the content gets created, whether it is a PDF, whether it's PPT, whether it's videos, and how do you make that content engaging and useful for the learners, as well as it meets the goal what the company has set. So content management for sales is a big part by itself.
Sure.
The third part is conversational AI. This is where I think in the last 3 years we have seen a lot of calls, or majority of the calls are now done online. When the online calls happens, then you and you're able to record and view them. Then you can not only predict on how did the call go, but also on what are the key moments of the call and how you can improve the pitch, or how you can give more feedback to the salesperson. And the fourth one is the revenue operations. The revenue operations is where the sales deals are stored. You know how the deal is progressing, how the leads are coming in, how the pitches are being made, and what is the probability of it of the sale deal going through. Right? So these 4 pillars, they constitute the sales enablement platform.
Okay.
And of course, behind these 4 pillars is a platform by itself, which is doing your user management, which is doing storage, which is doing data analytics, which is doing integrations, which is doing workflows across these 4 pillars. So that's how the whole sales enablement industry comes together.
Sure. Wow. So if I need to put it in a nutshell, so this is basically where I first understand how to pitch. That's the first. Second, once I understand how to pitch, it helps me improvise my pitch.
Yes.
Third, then there's a conversational AI. So what I'm saying live, it comes back to me with feedback. Yes. Fourth, which ones can I actually convert from whatever I've said into actual clients for the company I work with? Do I understand? This is the 4 pillars?
Yes.
Wow, excellent. So, this brings me to a spot where I would want to understand. So, Mindtickle from a perspective of engagement through technology, right? And I believe you guys work with very large firms. When it comes to customization through technology for these larger firms, how do you guys go about with, internally? How do you look at technology as a platform internally?
Yes. So some of the asks may come from one customer or 2 customers. One has to look at how do you platformize that ask.
Right.
We are a multi-tenant system. We don't build a system for one customer or a second customer. We do take their asks and see how it can apply to others.
Sure.
We will, like for example, if you're doing a user sync, Then how will you sync your data, whether it's from Exchange, whether it is from other identity systems. So there are common 3 or 4 identity systems that you would sync your data. That will cover your one customer need as well as for the future customers.
Sure.
So doing anything special for one customer has to always been put a lens of how can we platformize or generalize this ask and not make it a special case for one customer.
Got it. Got it. Wow. So is integration hard when it comes to, when you guys are dealing with so many customers?
So integration is, I'll say there are multiple types of integrations which happens. There is a integration with user, directory sync, we call it. Then there's an integration with content, which is called the content sync, because your content could be in Box, it could be in SharePoint, it could be in AEM, it could be in multiple places, and it is in Mindtickle. How does that content will stay in sync? That is the second area. The third area is again, call AI needs integration with Zoom. It needs integration with Teams. It needs integration with Calendar. So all those integration happens, right? And we look at enterprise, they will always have their own set of systems that they are working with. We can't, we have to work with their environment and have our system be productive in between their set of tools. And that's what every enterprise company also focuses on, and that's what Mindtickle also does with respect to integrations. It can get hairy. It can get very one-off thing if the platform approach is not put at the right point.
Sure.
Or if the generalization and abstractions are not applied at the right time.
Got it. In our previous time when we were having this chat, you spoke about how data plays a very important role here. Would you be willing to talk about it a bit?
Yes. So data analytics is very key to the sales pillars, because there is data getting generated from the learners, their activity feed. There is data getting generated from the conversational AI. There is data getting generated from the sales pitches, which is happening. And when you bring all of this together, you can easily answer that how effective a sales engineer is and what kind of extra coaching would they need, what is working and what is not working. And that can help you build an organization which is more effective. Just like an engineer would have some core skills, whether it's coding, debugging, performance. Similarly, there are some core skills which would make a salesperson effective.
Sure.
How would you map that in a graph of how efficient that salesperson is?
Wow.
You would need signals from all 4 of them and external systems in order to map the effectiveness of the sales organization.
Okay.
And I think there is, so that's where I think the data analytics comes into picture. That's where the right modeling comes into picture. And that also predicts whether the revenue goals for an organization will be met, not met, or how will it all come together.
Right, I'm super curious here, because here you guys are training a person who's already been employed by a company. Do you see this going a slightly, a level before, where they're, getting a person into their teams as a salesperson? Do you see that Mindtickle could be put to use there as well? I mean, because you're ranking the guy, right? So
yes, it's I'll say it's the skill analysis which continues to happen.
Right.
It is a continuous journey for a salesperson to learn the content and to deliver the content and to have certifications. It's not a one-time onboarding thing, and it's a continuous cycle.
Sure.
I think the companies hire great talent, the companies hire great people, and then they have to continue to train them. Correct. And coach them. And in sales, I find it more because of the nature of the job, as well as the continuous theme, more content and coming up.
Correct.
They're not selling the same thing again and again. The content, what they are selling, continues to change.
Sure. Interesting. So I believe you handle a 280 member org. 40 are in Bangalore, the remaining based out of Pune. Are there any in the US as well?
Not in my team right now, but we do have US presence. Our go-to-market team is there. Our product is there. So we do work very closely with our US counterparts.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask you, Smita, for all those guys who are listening on to this podcast, what are the 4 or 3 important skill sets you look at while hiring your team?
Yes. So for hiring in my leadership team, I think there are a couple of things which are core. First is you should have a strong core, I would say, which is the knowledge base and the foundation that you have, the expertise that you have, what you have done. That should be strong by itself.
Sure.
The second thing which I look at is the leadership skills. How you can handle the ups and downs of the business.
Right.
How resilient you are in your learning process. How can you take the team along?
Sure.
That is the entire leadership part of it. And the third part is also the culture fit.
Right.
We are very proud at Mindtickle to have a very strong culture of working together, building together.
Wow. Nice.
And that's why our Glassdoor scores are also pretty high. And we want to make sure the person who's coming in understands that concept. Our leadership very strongly believes in investing in people, and people in turn invest in the product.
Wow.
So, so somebody who has that mindset of being people oriented as well, we look at that pretty strongly.
Very nice. This is like somebody who wants to take ownership, is what you're saying, could be part of your team.
Yes, act like founders
Okay.
is one of our core pillars that we look at.
Wow. Nice. So are you still looking out? Are you still hiring?
Yes, we continue to hire, and we have a couple of leadership positions open.
Excellent.
That we look at.
So we'll leave your social handles for people to get in touch with you on this podcast, so that you get your talent also through this podcast. I'm just going to deviate from all this subject towards you, Smita. Yeah. If I were to look at your journey, incredible journey. You should be really, I'm sure your parents are proud, your friends are proud, your husband, your kids are proud. Now that brings us to one point. You never took a break in your career. Yeah. And that's a point that I want to address. Because women leaders are already a few. And women technology leaders are, in single digit percentile. So how did you manage this?
I think I did not look for a break at that point. I think once, I do take smaller breaks of 2 weeks, 3 weeks here and there.
Sure.
So that I continue to recharge. Or once I had to take a medical leave for a surgery, that's also okay. But I never felt that I needed a break. I think it was more of how I am feeling and how I'm able to balance everything. I did not feel that need to take a longish break. Of course, I took 2 small maternity leaves as well.
Too small. I like the part you say small.
It was a couple of weeks. I think it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks
Okay.
for each kid.
Okay.
And during that time also, I felt like yes, I can. I somehow wanted to stay connected, and that stay connected to the tech world in some form or the other, and that gives me that satisfaction and the happiness, so that I can be happy as a mom, and I can be happy as an employee as well.
Right. So for all those women who, looking at you for inspiration, what is one thing that you'd like to tell them that they can do to manage or balance this equation?
So it is different for every person. I don't think there is a one formula that would work for everyone.
Sure.
One question that you should ask yourself is, what is making you happy? What balance makes you happy? And then go with that balance. You have to realize that, and this is true not only with women but also with everyone, that sometimes we have to juggle a lot of things, whether it's on the personal front, whether it's on the kids front, whether it's home front, whether it's work front, whether it's doing the chores of the house. While juggling all of this, there has to be clarity in your mind on what is it that you can give, what is it that you are okay to drop, right? And you have to be prepared for it, that this is okay. When my kids were young, and I was relatively newer in my journey as well, one thing which was very clear to me is that I will always invest in services but not in stuff. I was okay to pay cleaners or helpers or anybody who can help me out rather than buy a very expensive purse.
Sure.
And that made me happy.
Sure.
So I went ahead with that strategy when the kids were young, of taking help from wherever I could, and so that I can enjoy my work life as well as on my personal life.
Wow, that's a leaf I'll take out of your book, and invest more in services than on stuff, for sure. But having said that, I want to ask you one more question about women in tech. Do you also see that there are lesser percentile for women in tech? Because most founders, they talk about diversity, gender diversity, hiring with us as a firm. We find it super hard to find more people like yourselves. So is there anything you'd like to share or any advice you'd like to give all of us on how we can improve this?
I think there are many of us, first of all. In my friend circle or in my network, I do connect with a lot of women leaders in tech whom I really admire.
Sure.
And so they exist, but yes, they are fewer in number, and we need to go and find them sometimes. And I think what helps is just making sure that pipeline continues to flow. We as leaders, we have to be sponsors for the talent at the right time, to pull that talent or to recognize that talent and understand where they need help. What I have found in my journey, as well as what I have seen, the part where a women engineer gets into the family life and have kids and then continues, those couple of years does get hard.
Correct.
And if we as leaders are there for them, to sponsor, to help them, to recognize their talent, then I think it makes their journey easier.
Sure.
Of course, one needs that support system from work as well as from home. And we as a society can provide that cushion on both the sides during those years. I think then we'll see a lot of women getting into the leadership roles.
Wow, that's a beautiful way to put it across. So, where everyone supports this cause. It's not just, people at home need to support. You're saying that at work, and we all need to support together as a society, is what you're saying.
That's right. And sponsorship does help. We have to sponsor the right talent.
Right.
We have to recognize the right talent as leaders and connect with them to understand their issues and help them, brainstorm with them on solving it. They are very capable of solving things themselves, but they need someone to brainstorm the solutions.
Right. So, having been part of a journey with large MNCs and now with a startup, I'm sure you've seen both sides of the spectrum. Would there be any, word of advice you'd like to give younger talent who's looking at this podcast, or even founders, first-time founders who are looking at enterprise platform? Would there be anything that you'd like to share?
So to the folks who are entering the industry or who are relatively new, I'll say be open-minded on the opportunities that come your way. don't be selective at this early stage. You have to experience the breadth in order for that strong foundation to be formed. Of never say, oh, I will not write the front end code. Why not? Oh, I can't do the database. Why not? Right? This is in the early years. You need to try as much as possible, so that you get an experience in different technologies or in different areas. Take a full stack project and experience everything in the engineering world. For the founders, especially on the enterprise space, I think enterprise industry and building something where people pay for, it is an amazing satisfaction. Right? Okay. So always remember that if you are building a product which people pay for, that's a very good satisfying feeling by itself.
Sure.
So always keep your customers in mind. Always keep their use cases in mind. Always keep their constraints in mind. Enterprise users, building enterprise software comes with its own technical challenges, because it's not just about scale, but it is about meeting them where they are. It is about meeting in their environment, with their integrations, with their software, with their needs. So, and they are paying for it. So you have to meet them where they are. And that's what I think the enterprise space makes it more challenging.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I would like to ask you one last question before we wrap up the show. When we were having this chat just before we got in here, you spoke about how what is enough for someone else may not be enough for you. Can you please throw some light? I was really inspired with that.
Yeah. So during my lifetime, I think one thing that I have really embraced for myself is, what is good enough for me is something that I will decide for myself and not the society. Right? And this is the feeling that I grew up with. And this is the point where I felt like when I was applying for JEE or IIT, I decided that, yeah, regional colleges are very good, nothing against them, but I don't want the society to tell me that regional college is okay for you. Right? And or being at a certain level in a certain company, it's good enough. I will decide what is my glass ceiling and what is good enough for me, and I will pursue that with my own passion and with my energy. And I'm so proud of the sponsorship and from the leadership that I got from in all my roles, as well as the support system that I got at home. Right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Smita. If you have any last words, I'll leave the podcast to you for you to end it.
Yes, I would say I'm really thankful to Purple Quarter and what it is doing in India, as well as now in other countries as well. India has an amazing ecosystem of engineers. I would say it had the amazing ecosystem of just engineers. Now, with the help of Purple Quarter, we are growing the leaders as well. We are helping the MNCs set up their core offices in India. And Purple Quarter is playing a key role in finding that right talent, grooming the right talent, and raising the bar for what can be done from India.
Thank you so much.
So really proud of your work.
Thank you. Those are kind words. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Smita. We had a lovely time chatting with you today.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to be on this show, and I wish Purple Quarter good luck.